Hello everyone. In this video we will be going over 35 sample questions for the math TEAS test. In this first question, it's asking us to solve this very long problem. When you see a problem like this, I want you to think of PEMDAS. That's parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So based off of that, the order of operation, we need to first start off by getting rid of that parentheses. And to get rid of that parentheses, we have to start with that exponent in the parentheses, 7 squared plus 5. So 7 squared means 7 times 7. And I'm going to, as I go through the problem, I'm just going to write the rest of the problem in here. All right, and we move to the next step, multiplying 7 times 7, which is 49, plus 5. And I'm going to continue writing out the rest of the problem. And then we add 49 plus 5. That gives us 54 divided by 6 minus 3. And then to finally get rid of this parentheses, we have to multiply 54 times 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15, plus the 1 that I carried is 162. So we have 162 divided by 6 minus 3. All right, so we finally got rid of that parentheses. Once we get rid of the parentheses, then we move through the order of operation. So if there are no exponents, we can scratch that out. There's no multiplication, we can scratch that out, but there is some division here. So what we're going to do is erase some of these unnecessary numbers, since we have our number right here. All right, so we are going to divide 162 by 6. So 6 can't go into 1 evenly, so we move on to the next number. 6 can go into 16 twice. And 6 times 2, or 2 times 6, is 12. 16 minus 12 is 4. And we have to bring this 2 down, making it a 42. 6 goes into 42 7 times. And 7 times 6 is 42. 0. So 162 divided by 6 equals 27. So we did our division. The next thing would be addition. There's no addition, but there is some subtraction left. And we have 3 minus 3. So 27 minus 3 is equal to 24. So the answer for this question is 24. Moving on to question number 2, we have another solving for what looks like a very long problem, but just break it down by steps. So we're going to be subtracting 68.567 minus 13 minus 2.43. So let's go ahead and write that number out. We're going to start with subtracting 13 from 68.567. So 68.567 minus, now when you're adding and subtracting decimals, you need to line the numbers up with the place or line the decimal point up. But 13 doesn't have a decimal on it just yet. So we know that the 1 is in the tens place. We know that the 3 is in the ones place. Then we can add a decimal point and then put zeros. This makes it much easier to add numbers that don't originally have a decimal place or numbers that don't add up. Once you put that decimal point in there, you can just add zeros after that because that ends up being 13. So once we have all of our numbers and our decimals, mainly our decimals lined up, then we just subtract. So we start from the right side. So 7 minus 0 is 7. 6 minus 0 is 6. 5 minus 0 is 5. We put our decimal place there. 8 minus 3 is 5. And 6 minus 1 is 5. So we know what 68.567 minus 13 is. That gave us an answer of 55.567. So next thing we have to do is subtract 55.567 or subtract 2.43 from there. Again, we need to line our decimal place up. So we have 2.43 and there's no number in the hundredths place. So we can add a 0 there just to kind of have the same amount of numbers after the decimal, so it makes it much easier to subtract. So now we just do our subtraction. 7 minus 0 is 7. 6 minus 3 is 3. 5 minus 4 is 1. We put our decimal point. 5 minus 2 is 3. And 5 minus 0 is 5. So the answer for this is 53.137. All right, question number 3. It's a very long and seems like complicated word problem. It's actually not too difficult once you break it down step by step. It says a soccer team with 16 players gets a donation of $7,296 from a small local business to share equally. Each of the team members agrees to donate $137 to a local charity, pay $117 towards transportation for the team, and to spend $32 on dinner. How much money will each player have left? The first thing you need to do is find out how much money does each player get. We know that there's a total of 16 players, and we know the total donation was $7,296. So based off of that information, first we can find out how much each player gets by dividing 7,200. So I'll put it in here, $7,296. We need to divide that by 16. So let's go ahead and do that. 16 divided by 7,296. So starting off with the first number, 16 cannot go into 7 evenly. So we move on to the next number. 16 can go into, and I'm going to get rid of this comment here so it's not as confusing. 16 can go into 72. That can go into 72. Let's see, 16 times 3 is 48. No, that number's not large enough. So let's move on to the next number. Let's try 16 times 4. 4, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 64. That's a little bit closer without going over 72. So we'll do 4. 16 times 4. We know that that is 64. 72 minus 64 is 8. Bring the 9 down. So 89, so we need to figure out how many times can that go into 89. So we know that 16 times 4 is 64. If we add another one, so let's do 16 times 5. That's 6 times 5 is 30. We carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3. Okay, that's close to 80, so we'll use 5 here. And we know that 5 times 16 is 80, and 89 minus 80 is 9. So now we bring down our 6. 16 goes into 1 or 96. We know that 16 times 5 is 80. Let's just add another one. So let's try 16 times 6, which I'm thinking it's going to work out fine. 6 times 6, 36. Carry the 3. That's a 3 right there. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus the 3 that we just carried is 96. So based off of that information, each player gets a total of $456. So since we know that each player gets $456, we could go ahead and start subtracting all of those expenses that each player is going to incur, starting with each of the team members agrees to donate $137. So we'll subtract 137 and 457. So carry that. We'll take 4. That's 4 right here. Actually, let me just move this down a little bit. So each player gets 456. So I'm not writing up in the problem. Each player gets 456 minus 137 that they're going to donate to charity. We take 1 from here, leaves us with 4. 16 minus 7 is 9. 4 minus 3 is 1. And 4 minus 1 is 3. So after they made that $137 donation to the local charity, they have $319 left. Each team member does agree to pay $117 towards transportation, so we just subtract 117 from 319, and we get 2. 9 minus 7 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. 3 minus 1 is 2. All right, so after they made a donation to the local charity and paid for the transportation for the team, they have $202 left. And then each team member agreed to pay $32 for dinner. So we're going to take that 202 and we're going to subtract $32 from that. And that's going to give us 170. So 2 minus 2 is 0. Let's take 1 from here, put that there. So 10 minus 3 is 7. And then 1 minus 0 is 1. So it looks like each team member will have $170 left over. All right, in question number 4, we're asked to solve for this multiplication problem. And then once we solve for it, we have to round to the nearest hundredths place. So that's kind of important. Once we get our answer, we have to put it in the nearest hundredths place. So let's go ahead and start our multiplication. Now, one thing about multiplying numbers with decimals in them, you don't have to line the decimal points up. The decimal place comes into it becomes important once you do your multiplication. So you'll see once we do this multiplication. We're going to start with the ones place. The 2 is in the ones place for the bottom number. We're going to multiply 2 times everything up in the top number. starting with 2 times 6, that's 12. We carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12, plus the 1 that we carried, that's 3. And notice that I'm lining my numbers up in the correct place, because that makes it much easier once you have to add all these numbers together. 2 times 5, actually, let me carry that 1 from that 13. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 1 that we carried, that's 51, or 5. So that takes care of the numbers that are the number that's in the ones place. Now I'm going to move on to the number that's in the tens place for the bottom number, which is 4, and I'm going to multiply that times the top number. But before I do that, I need to put a 0 here. Some people put an X, and once they move on to the different places, I use a 0 because it's much easier to add once I get all my numbers multiplied. So once we put our 0 in that ones place, now we can start multiplying everything that's in the tens place with that top number. So 4 times 6 is 24. We carry the 2. 4 times 6 is 24, plus that 2 that I carried. That gives us 26. And notice it's very important to line these numbers up, because it helps when you have to add the numbers at the end. So that's 26. I carried a 2. That's a 2 up there. My pencil isn't working right, but let me make it a little bit more noticeable. So that's a 2. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus the 2 that I carried, that's 22. I carried a 2. And then 4 times 2 is 8, plus the 2 that I carried, that's 10. All right, let me go ahead and get rid of all those numbers that I carried up at the top so I don't confuse myself. Very easy to confuse yourself when you're working with a lot of numbers. All right, so we have our tens place, we have our ones place taken care of. We're going to move to the number that's in the hundreds place, which is 3. So because we're moving to that place, we need to add a 0 in the ones place, 0 in the tens place here. Now we can start multiplying in the hundreds place. So we're going to multiply 3 times the top number. So 3 times 6 is 18. We carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus that 1 that I carried is 19. Carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus the 1 that I carried is 16. Carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 1 that I carried is 7. So that takes care of the number that's in the hundreds place. Let me get rid of all the numbers that I carried up there so I don't confuse myself. All right, moving on to the thousands place. So since I'm moving on to my thousands place, I need to add a 0 for my ones place, my tens place, my hundreds place. Now I can start multiplying the number that's in the thousands place with all of the numbers that's up in the top number. So 8 times 6 is 48. We carry the 4. 8 times 6 is 48, plus the 4 that I carried is 52. 8 times 5 is 40, plus the 5 that I carried, that's 45. 8 times 2 equals 16, plus the 4 that I carried, that gives us 20. And I'm going to erase all the numbers that I carried so I don't have extra numbers on here to confuse myself. Now that I have all of my multiplication done, I do some addition. And again, it's very important to line all the numbers up in the correct place, because it makes adding the numbers a lot easier once you get all your multiplication done. So 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 4 plus 0 plus 0 is 7. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 8 is 15, plus 0 still gives us 15. I'm going to carry the 1 up there. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 plus 9 is 17. And 17 plus 8 is 25. Carry my 2. 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 7 is 9. 9 plus 5 is 14. Carry my 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Then I have 2. So now this is where the decimal point comes into play. You have to add how many numbers are behind the decimal point to come up to figure out where to place your decimal point in your answer. So in our first number, our top number, we have 6. We have 6 here, 6 here. So that's 2 places. And then the bottom number, you have 1, 2, 3. So 2 places in the top, 3 places in the bottom number. That gives us a total of 5. So once we know how many places, how many numbers are behind the decimal, we put our decimal point here, and we go 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to place our decimal point there. So that gives us 214 decimal point 05572. But remember, we have to round to the nearest hundredth place. And this first 5 right here is in the hundredth place. So since that 5 is in the hundredth place, we need to look at the number to the right of that 5. If the number to the right of that 5 is 0 to 4, you keep the number the same. If the number is 5 and above, then you have to round up. So since the number to the right of the 5 is 5 or above, we have to change that 5. We have to round up. So we have 2.14 or 214.06. So our answer is 214.06. Moving on to question number 5. Now this is another sneaky word problem. The thing with word problems is you just have to do one step at a time. What helps me out when I'm doing word problems is I write out a lot of the verbiage so that it makes sense to me. So we're going to start with, it says Max has 2.5 times the number of marbles that Jacob has. And I want you to always read through the problem before you start writing things down. Jacob has 34 marbles. Stephen has 0.2 times the number of marbles that Max has. How many marbles does Stephen have? All right, so now we start writing out the information that we know. So we know that Max has 2.5 times the marbles of Jacob. Jacob has 34 marbles, and Stephen has 0.2 times Max. All right, so we know that. So first thing we need to do is find out how many marbles does Max have. And based off of the information above, I'm going to erase this now that I wrote it out. And trust me, I do write this stuff out. You'll have more room. You should have more room in your um, on your paper that you're doing your scratch paper. I'm just working with a limited amount of room. So 2.5 times the amount that Jacob has. So we need to multiply 34 because we know Jacob has 34 marbles. And then we need to multiply. Again, we don't match up the decimals. We match up our numbers in the correct place. All right, so 34 times 2.5. So we're going to start in our ones place. We're going to multiply 5 times everything that's in the top number. So 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 2 is 17. All right, so we're done multiplying our numbers in the ones place. So we move on. That is not a 6. That should be a 0. We're going to move on to our tens place. So since we multiplied our ones place, and that actually makes it look like it's an 8, but it's actually a 0. We multiplied our numbers in the ones place. So once we start multiplying the numbers in the tens place, we need to put a 0 in our ones place down here, and then we can start multiplying 2 times the top number. So 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 3 is 6. So I'm going to transfer all these numbers up here. So we have 170680. We're going to add those numbers. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 8 is 15. We need to carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 6 is 8. So again, this is where the decimal point comes into play now that we did all our multiplication and we added those numbers together. We need to find out how many numbers are behind the decimal place. There are no numbers behind the decimal place in the top number, but there is one number behind the decimal point in the bottom number, which is 5. So it's just one number. So we start here with the decimal point and then we move over 1. So that gives us 85.0. Sorry for the bad penmanship. So 85.0. So Max has 85 marbles. So now what we need to do is find out how many marbles Steven has. Erase everything. All right, so based off of this, it says Steven has 0.2 times the number of Max. And we know Max has a total of 85 marbles, so all we have to do is multiply 85 times 0.2. All right, again, you line your numbers up. Don't worry about the decimal, lining a decimal up. All right, so now we have to multiply 2, which is in the ones place down at the bottom, with all the numbers up at the top. So start off with 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 8 is 16 plus the 1 that I carried is 17. And then we move on to our next number, which is a 0, and that's in the tens place. So we put a 0 in our ones place because we're done with that. Now we can multiply 0 times the number that's in the top. So 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 8 is 0. So now we just add our numbers together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 0 is 7. 1 plus 0 is 1. So again, I'm going to move my number here. So we have one number behind the decimal point, which is 2, because there are no numbers behind the decimal point up at the top. So since there's only one number, we put a decimal point there. We move our decimal place there. So Stephen has 17.0 marbles, or 17 marbles. All right, in question number 6, we have to solve for this fraction. We have mixed number, which means that we have a whole number mixed in with a fraction. So the first thing we need to do is turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're going to start with 1 and 3 over 10. So to do that, you have to multiply 1 times 10. So you're going to multiply this number times this number. And that equals 10. And then you're going to add that numerator, which is 3 plus 3. That gives us 13. So our new fraction is going to be 13 over 10. So we've taken care of that number. Now moving on to 2 and 5/8. All right, so we do the same thing. We're going to multiply that 2 times 8 equals 16. And then we're going to add the numerator. Gives us 21. So now we have plus 21 over, and then we use that denominator, 8. All right, so now that we have all of those put in improper fraction, now we can do our addition of the fraction. So when I do adding and subtracting fractions, I do it a little bit different. I have to look at the numbers vertically. I can't do it. I can do it horizontally, but it's much easier for me to visualize it with the fractions being horizontal or vertical, excuse me, not horizontal. Whichever way is easiest for you, do it the way that's easiest for you. So what I do is put my lines there. So then I have to find out what the factors, I need to come up with the lowest common denominator. And to do that, I need to find out what the factors of each number is. And we have 10 and we have 8. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to multiply both numbers up to 10. So 10 times 1 is 10, 10 times 2 is 20, 10 times 3 is 30, 10 times 4 is 40, 5, let me change that so it doesn't look like a 6 there. 10 times 5 is 50, 10 times 6 is 60, 10 times 7 is 70, 10 times 8 is 80, 10 times 9 is 90, 10 times 100 is 100. So we know what the factors of 10 is. Now we're going to get the factors of 8. And the factors of 8, so 8 times 1 is 8. Ooh, this looks terrible. 8 times 2 is 16. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. 5 times 8 is 40. 6 times 8 is 48. 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 10 is 80. So once I do that, now I need to find out which number do they have in common. And the number that I see that they have in common is 80. So this is the lowest common denominator. So we put our 80 there. My pen is not working well. So do 80 here. And we know that 10 goes into 80 8 times. So then we multiply 8 times the 13, and 8 times 13 8 times 3 is 24, carry a 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 104. So that's 104. And we know that 8 goes into 80 10 times. We multiply 10 times 21. So let's multiply 10 times 21. 21 times 10. 0 times 1 is 0. 0 times 2, and I need to just change that because that looks like a 2. Okay, that looks like a 0. So 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. So we move on to our tens place, put a 0 in the ones place because we're done multiplying that. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. We add those numbers. 0, 1, 2. Alright, so now I'm going to erase these factors down here because we're done with that, because I need more space to start adding numbers. And I'm going to erase that because we know what that number is. So now what we're looking at is we have 104 over 80 plus 210 over 80. So I'm just moving everything over here. Just moving it over here so I can see it better, and I can do the work better, a little bit easier. All right, so our denominator stays 80, and then we add our numerator, so we add 104 plus 10 or 210. That's going to give us 314. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this over here. Alright, so now I'm going to take my 314. I need to simplify 314, and I need to find out what number can go into each one of the numbers, the numerator and the denominator. I need to find out what number goes into that evenly. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this so I can move to my next step. So the easiest thing you could do is use 2, start off with 2 and go from there. So we're going to divide 314 times 2. That's going to give us 157. And divide 80 by 2. That's going to give us 40. So we end up with another improper fraction because that's how we started. And that's fine because we're going to change this improper fraction into a mixed number again because we don't have any improper fractions over there. So we just have mixed numbers over there. So 157 over 40 is already broken down to the smallest it's going to be, or to the simplest form. So now that we have that, we're going to change this number into a mixed number. And to do that, you divide 40 by 157. Put the denominator on the outside and numerator on the inside. And then we're going to figure out what number can go into, how many times 40 can go into 157. 40 can't go into 1, 40 can't go into 15, but 40 can go into 157 3 times, I believe. So yeah, if you add another 40, that'd be 160, so that'd be too big. So we would use 3, and 3 times 40 is 120. We subtract 120 from 157, that gives us 37. So now we can do a mixed number. So the mixed number is going to be 3. And we take the remainder of that, 37. And then that number, the denominator, stays the same. So our answer for this question is going to be this one. Question number 7 is asking us to multiply two mixed numbers. So the first thing we need to do is turn our mixed numbers into improper fractions. To do that, as we did in previous slides or previous questions, we're going to start with this number here. So we're going to take that whole number, which is 3. We're going to multiply that times the denominator. That gives us 24. Then we're going to add the numerator onto there. That gives us 29. So now we have 29. And we use that denominator 8 to get our denominator. Now we have that number, that mixed number, turned into improper fraction. Now we're going to move on to our second mixed number. So we're going to take that whole number, 2 times the denominator, which is 5. That gives us 10. Then we're going to add the numerator, which is 2. That gives us 12. All right. And then, so we have 12 over 5. All right. So now that we have those two numbers, we have our mixed numbers. We turn those into improper fractions. Next, we're going to do our multiplication. So I'm going to start with the denominator because it's a little bit smaller. So 8 times 5 is 40. Now we're going to move on to the numerator. So 29 times 12. All right, so we have 2 times 9, that's 18. Carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 1, that gives us 5. Now that we're going to move on to the number that's in the tens place, which is 1. We add our 0 down here because we're done multiplying with the ones place. So now we have 1 times 9, that's 9. 1 times 2 is 2. We add those numbers together. 8 plus 0 is 8. My pen is acting funny. All right, so 8 plus 0 is 8. 5 plus 9 is 4. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. All right, so we have 3, 4, 8. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of this. All right, so now what we need to do is simplify that fraction because there is a number that can go into both of these numbers. So I'm going to start off with 4 because I know 4 I know 4 can go into 8. So I'm looking at that last number. So let's do 4. We're going to divide both numbers by 4. So we know that the bottom number is going to be 10. And we're going to try to divide 4 into 3, 4, 8. All right, 4 can't go into 3, so we move on to the next number. 4 goes into 32. It can go into 32. It can go into 32 or 34 8 times. 34 minus 2. 32 is 2. Bring that 8 down. 4 goes into 28 7 times, and that's even. All right, so we know that 4 goes into 348 87 times. Now that is broken down to the simplest form because there's not one common number that can go into 87 and 10. All right, so our answer has to be a mixed number. So let's turn this improper fraction 87 over 10 into a mixed number. So to do that, we just divide our denominator or our numerator by our denominator. So 10 divided by 87. 10 can't go into 8 evenly, but 10 can go into 87. Not evenly, but it can go in there without going over. Go in there 8 times. So 8 times 10 is 80. All right, 87 minus 80 is 7. All right, that's as far as we can go with that. So it looks like our answer is going to be 8 and 7/10 because we have 8. We take that remainder. All right, in question number 8, there's another word problem. So read through the word problems before you start taking notes. The city's population has grown by 1/6 in 2020, and in 2021 it has grown by another 2/5 from 2020. If in 2019 the population was 155,880 people, what has it become in 2021? So let's figure out what we have. We know that the population in 2019 was 155,880, and we know that the population grew by 1/6 in 2020. So we're going to multiply that, and we're going to turn the 2019 population into a fraction. So the easiest way to turn 155,880 into a fraction is to place a 1 in the denominator. Now we have a fraction, so now we can multiply across. So that gives us 155,880 because 155,880 times 1 is 155,880, and then 1 times 6 is 6. So now that we have that figured out, now we need to simplify it. And to simplify it, we're going to divide that denominator times the numerator, or divided by the numerator. All right, 6. So 6 can't go into 1 even. So let me give myself some room because this is going to turn into a long problem. So I'm going to move that number up a little bit. All right, let me erase this number down here. That way I have some room to do my math with. All right, 6 can't go into 1. 6 can go into 15 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3. We bring that 5 down. 6 goes into 35 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. 35 minus 30 is 0. Or, excuse me, 35 minus 30 is 5. We bring the 8 down. 6 can go into 58 9 times. 9 times 6 is 54. Bring that down. That gives us 48. 6 can go into 48 8 times. And 6 times 8 is 48. That gives us 0. We bring that 0 down. And 0 can go into 6 can go into 0 0 times. So our population increase in 2020 is 25,980. So we need to take that number and we need to add that to that 2019 population to find out what the 2020 population was. So 2020 population is 155,880 plus that increase. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 9 is 18. Carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. No 1 to carry. So our population for 2020 is going to be 181,860. All right, now that we know what the population is um, in 2020, now we can figure out what 2021 is. And the way to do that is we're going to take 2020's population and multiply that by the increase, which is 2/5. So we need to turn our 2020 population into a fraction. The easiest way to do that is to put a 1 over that population, and then we're going to multiply across. All right, so we know that number is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Now we need to multiply 181,860 times 2. So where can I put that? Put it here. Should be able to do it here. Actually, that's going to look messy. 181,860 times 2. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 8 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. 2 times, no, that's 17, excuse me. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So we have 3, 6, 3, 7, 2, 0. All right, so now we have to simplify this fraction here. And to do that, we take 3, and we're going to go ahead and erase that for now so that it's not too confusing. All right, 5 can't go into 3, but 5 can go into 36. I can go into 36 7 times. I'm going to need some more space. I'm going to have to move that. Sorry, I need to erase this. And I need to move this up because I need some space. All right, so 5 divided by 3, 6, 3, 7, 2, 0. And this is actually not really necessary, but we'll leave it there. We'll leave that comma there. So we have 5 can't go into 3, but it can go into 36. We said 7 times. That's 35. 36 minus 35 is 1. We bring that down. 5 can go into 13 2 times. And 2 times 5 is 10. Bring 7 down. 5 can go into 37 7 times. And 7 times 5 is 35. And I'm running out of space. You drop the 2. 5 can go into 24 times. That gives us 20. We bring that 0 down. And 5 can go into 20 4 times. And that gives us 20. Excuse me. 20 minus 20. That gives us 0. Sorry, I ran out of space. But that number, this number here, is 72744. So that's the increase from 2020 to 2021. So what we need to do now is to take that number and add it to the 2020 amount. Get rid of this. And our 2020 amount is 068181. Add those two numbers together. That gives you 4, 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 8 plus 7 is 15. Carry the 1. So our answer is 254,604. Question number 9 tells us to if two even numbers are added to an odd number and the result is multiplied by an odd number, which of the following could be the result? Please select all that apply. So that means that it's possible that there's going to be more than one answer for this question. So if you don't remember the rules of odd plus even times odd, those rules, the simplest way I found to work on this problem is to plug numbers in. So it says if you add two even numbers, so I'm just going to use 2 plus 2, that gives me 4. And then I add an odd number. I'm just going to use 1 because it's a small number. And to add another, and then is multiplied by an odd number. So I'm just going to multiply it times 1 because that's an odd number. That gives me an odd number. All right, so if I'm not entirely convinced that that's the answer or that's correct, I'm going to try some more odd and even numbers. So let's try 2 plus 4. Those are two even numbers. That gives us 6. And then I decide to add a 1 as the odd number. That's 7. And then I need to multiply another odd number. That gives me 7. So it looks like whatever numbers I put in, the number is going to be odd. So with that being said, the answer is going to have an odd number in the ones place for sure. So it's going to be that, and it's going to be that. All right, in question number 10, we're asked to put this improper fraction, turn that into a decimal. So when you're turning any fractions into decimals, regardless of which number is the largest, you follow the same rule. So that rule is you have to do division. You're going to use your denominator on the outside. It's going to be on the outside, and put your numerator on the inside. And then you just do your division. 8 can't go into 1, but 8 can go into 15. So 8 can go into 15 one time. And 1 times 8 is 8. We're going to subtract 15 or 8 from 15. That gives us 7. All right. 8 can't go into 7 evenly. So what we need to do is we need to add our little 0 here and put our little decimal place up there. We need to bring that 0 down. And that decimal place went there. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it disappeared, but now it's back. All right, so 8 can go into 70, 8 times. And 8 times 8 is 64. And anytime I get a decimal, I always tell my students to at least get 2 numbers after the decimal. So 70 minus 64 is 6. 8 can't go into 6, so we add another 0. We bring that 0 down. 8 goes into 60 70 times, and 7 times 8 is 56. So, I mean, we don't need to go any further. It's clear that 1.875 is our answer. We could add another 0 here, bring that down, and 8 goes into 45 times. But I generally tell my students to get 2 numbers after the decimal.